Oh, okay. Have you reassigned it?
Not yet.
You're scared. You're gonna get banned.
I am. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Anime Club After Dark, the podcast that delves into all things anime, manga, and otaku culture related. I'm your host, Alex, but you can call me Senpai, and joining me tonight, I have our chivalry of Shota, Shotaro.
Make sure to check out my OnlyFans.
Ew. Anyway, so tonight, you and I wanted to get together and discuss something that happened somewhat recently with a tool. And I use that word deliberately, a tool that both you and I use on a somewhat regular basis, and that's the website My Anime List, or MAL.
Yeah, it's my homepage.
Yeah, right. You do seem to update it far more frequently than I do. But as I said, it is a tool that both you and I use, and I think everyone on the podcast, really, with the exception of John, because he doesn't watch a whole lot of anime. He tends to read more manga and light novels.
Even though Mal does list manga and light novels. I think John is just
true.
A hipster.
He is. But it is first and foremost a tool that a lot of people in the otaku community, both people who love anime and manga and light novels, use quite a bit to keep track of what they watch, what they read, and to score it. Us not excluded from that.
Did you actually
and it's
say
something
the non-acronym website?
MyAnimeList.net.
In case anybody wasn't following what we're talking about. That's what the website
I mean, most people just call it MAL at this point. It's been around for long enough. I mean, it's been around for, 15 years now?
I have no idea.
Thereabouts?
Honey, I'm only 10
it was
years
founded.
old.
Yeah, it's founded November 5th, 2004. So yeah, 15 years.
Wow, before I was even born.
Yeah, certainly before you were an anime fan.
Very much before that.
But yeah, if you've been keeping up with anything going on recently with it, I just kind of want to give a brief overview of some of the drama surrounding it. So recently, MAL introduced a new algorithm to their voting service, and the reason for that is a little bit multifaceted. But this started back in early February of this year. So there's an anime that's airing currently that I think you and I are both watching and enjoying, called Interspecies Reviewers, and it's basically hentai, right? Basically.
Well, there's no on-screen penetration, so
yet, at least as of the time of recording this.
Explicit ecchi.
It is. It's very, very explicit, and it's been kind of high profile because, at least in the West and in the US, Funimation, who had licensed this series, dropped it after 3 or 4 episodes, and they had already kind of committed to doing a dub for it as well, and they'd already hired maybe 1 or 2 people, English voice actors, to do the dub for it, and then they just kind of dropped it unapologetically, saying that it wasn't up to their standards, and not kind of just leaving it at that, which we could do an entire episode on that at some point. And I think maybe by the end of the season, we may actually do an entire episode about Interspecies Reviewers. But coming off the heels of that, there were a couple of somewhat prominent anime YouTubers, who one of them I know for a fact was a channel by the name of Nuxtaku, who has about 100 or just over, or not 100, just over 1 million followers. I believe the other one, and don't quote me on this because I haven't really followed him in quite a while, is Noble, aka Lost Paws. They kind of insisted on the heels of Funimation dropping Interspecies Reviewers. I said isekai reviewers, interspecies reviewers, that they go to MAL and essentially vote Brigade MAL up to the top of the top anime list that they have on there by rating it a 10. And of course, MAL has a weighted review system. that they use. And so after a couple of days of this, you saw on the top anime page that interspecies reviewers basically caught Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which has been at the top of the top anime charts on Mal for many, many years now. And I think this is the point at which Mal was like, all right, this has got to stop. This also wasn't the first time that vote brigading, quote unquote, has happened on this site. It was done previously as a joke with Pingu in the City, both seasons 1 and 2 of that, and it was also somewhat more recently done with Chihaya Furu season 3, although to a much lesser extent, I believe.
All those for Joshi.
I know, right?
They want their shoujo anime to be at the top page.
But I think that interspecies reviewers is really the straw that broke the camel's back here, because previously Mal had this policy of dealing with stuff like this on an individual basis, and using the admins of the site to deal with each individual account that was doing this, and blah 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 blah. But anyway, so Mal put into effect like a new algorithm and new policy about vote brigading, or things that seem like vote brigading, and I wanted you maybe to give like a brief explanation of what they say this new system entails.
Well, what they're going to do is they're going to discount the votes of what they deem duplicate accounts, first of all. Second of all, they're going to discount the votes of accounts that have participated in activity that would be considered raiding. So in the case of interspecies reviewers, they, I believe, cited that the YouTubers that you spoke about, urged their viewers to vote, and then immediately after that, the YouTube video went up, the votes spiked. So any accounts that were involved in that spike of votes would be discounted. So those are the two discounting of votes they're going to implement. And they put in one caveat that if you did participate in the raid, but afterwards, or not raid, I call it a raid. Apparently it's a brigade, which okay, whatever. If you participated in the brigade and then afterwards you still continue to use your Mal account semi-frequently on a normal basis, they will allegedly revert your brigade rating back to what you had originally put into it. So this is, like you said, an improvement on the previous system that they just had admins go through each and every account on a one-by-one basis.
It's certainly an improvement if you happen to be an admin, because you don't have to deal with it anymore.
Honey, robots are taking our jobs. It's literally an epidemic.
Just ask cam girls.
Oh my, that's for another podcast. Another thing that you brought up was that, you were talking about how interspecies reviewers was the last straw on the camel's back. It may have been, but according to Mal's official statement, they say that it is not true. They say that the system has been in the planning stages for 6 months. I'm not sure if I buy that. I can buy it being in the works since like the Chihaya Furu season 3 thing, but I and that was what, like 3 months ago at the very most. Yeah, 3 months.
So I mean, I can't really buy that this has been in the works for half a year or even maybe more.
I don't know when the Pingu in the City thing was. Wasn't that like a year?
That was back in 2017.
Damn. I'm so old. Oh.
And also it also happened again when Pingu in the City had a second season in 2018.
Oh, okay.
That wasn't started by like an anime YouTube or anything. That was just started as a joke on 4chan's anime board.
Amazing. Well, I guess whether they had planned it or not doesn't really matter. But I know you were very inflamed and enraged at this algorithm because you were personally targeted and attacked. You were a victim of this witch hunt.
I would like to say that while this was going on, when everyone was rating Interspecies Reviewers a 10, I'll admit I hopped on board this train and gave it a 10, even though I have made it my policy in the past that I do not rate anime that are currently airing until they have finished airing and I have finished watching them.
So
or
isn't
if I
that
drop
statement that you just said a literal admittance that your vote was brigaded?
I mean, yeah, but I did it for the lulz. I wasn't actually trying to do anything nefarious.
Oh my god.
But I will fully admit that you can call me an enormous hypocrite if you want. I probably am. I'm probably a hypocrite for many other things. But I also noticed that after they implemented this new algorithm and new policy, that the 10 that I had given Interspecies Reviewers, which I still hadn't removed, was removed for me.
Yes, you were very vocal
by the
about
system
it.
itself, and I looked at it, I'm like, what the fuck? And so I am like, with any rollout of any new system, especially an automated system as this algorithm is, I guess, supposed to be, or at least more automated than it currently is, you have to expect there's going to be hiccups during the rollout. I mean, no piece of software is ever perfect in its first implementation. There's always going to be things that you didn't account for, or weird habits that it gets into that you're like, that's not right. So you got to go back in there and just, tinker, tweak it. I understand that. Like, as someone who's in the IT field and who's especially in cybersecurity, you understand that. But it just makes me wonder, like, how well will this system be implemented, especially if the more automated it gets. Like, the more you take out of the hands of people, because you see how well it works on something that's enormous like YouTube, where you're constantly forced to argue with a bot and it doesn't understand context or subtlety, and it's like, so my fear is that there's going to be so many hiccups during this rollout that it might not work as well as intended. On the other hand, I'm also thinking, well, maybe this will discourage people from trying this in the future. I have my doubts on that as well. But just because you've made vote brigading more difficult doesn't mean people aren't still going to try to do it.
I mean, I feel like it's better to try and combat it than to just let it happen. I don't know what your opinion on meme brigades like Penguin the City and Interspecies Reviewers is.
Well,
are you okay with it? Are you neutral?
That's a good question. That's actually
it?
a really good question, because I have sort of a pro-con opinion of vote brigading. On one hand, I see where it can cause like legitimate problems with a system that Mal has in place, where it's supposed to be a rating, like any website that has a rating system. I mean, it's supposed to be put in place for people to give their honest, like individuals to give their honest opinions on things, so that the community can see whether a piece of media is liked or disliked. I get that. On the other hand, I also feel that vote brigading isn't necessarily always a bad thing. I mean, in this case, it's shown that Mal has a problem with its rating system, and they fixed it. I feel like if Mal was never vote brigaded on anything, they wouldn't have had any incentive to fix their system.
I mean, they only fixed their system in that they prevented brigading. It's not really.
Well, they
impactful.
haven't prevented it. They have lessened the chance that it will happen. It can still happen.
Yes, but it hasn't really impacted the actual rating system that much.
No, it hasn't. At least not yet. And again, that will depend on how exactly this algorithm interprets people's votes. I mean, since I voted Interspecies Reviewers a 10 while this was going on. If I go back in there at the end of the season after I've said that I've completed the show and I've watched all the episodes and I still give it a 10, will my 10 even count?
So you legitimately can't even assign a rating to it at this point.
Oh, no, I can.
You can.
I can. Yeah, it just got rid of the rating that I had on there at the time.
Oh, but you
can
reassign
it just basically reset it to where it was like I hadn't rated it at all yet.
Oh, okay. Have you reassigned it?
Not yet.
You're scared. You're gonna get banned.
I am. I'm scared that if I actually give this a positive review now, I'm going to get banned. Which highlights another thing. Like, if they say that, let's say this happened with everyone, or it just happened with a minority of people who did this, where instead of, banning their accounts. They just zeroed out the scores. Like, okay, now we have to worry about, well, did anything that we rate even matter anymore? Will our votes count for anything anymore?
I think you're being a little
Which to me seems like backdoor censorship.
I think you're stretching.
If that's the case.
I think you're a little too salty that your review got bounced. I know you brought up in our Discord, which you can join.
Yes.
In the description.
What a great advertisement.
That there should be, or at least you brought up a distinction between rating for your own personal list and like rating for the top anime/manga, posting like 1 to 100. So, I mean, they removed your rating for interspecies reviewers, so you no longer even have that for your personal list. So clearly, the system isn't the greatest because, you know, I don't like what even is, because like, what is the purpose of Mal in general? Because these two conflicting roles that the website is trying to play are coming into you know, conflict. Yeah. Because like,
I mean, for me personally, I feel like Mal, first and foremost, should be a database, a repository of information about anime and manga and light novels and things of that nature. I mean, that's, for me, first and foremost, that's what it should be. It should be a place where I can go and look up information about an anime or a manga, like, you know, who was the publisher, who was the author, who was the studio that created it, when was it released, and then add it to a list of things that I have watched or have read. That's for me, first and foremost, what Mal is. Like, it's sort of become a joke at this point that the top anime list on Mal, like, its top 10 is filled with Gintama because it lists every single season of Gintama separately. So it's like there's no way for anything to get into the fucking top 10 anymore.
That's true. That's quite annoying. And I don't know how you would fix that.
I mean, I've made the distinction that for me, the best thing that they could do, and it would certainly avoid vote brigading, I think, or at least not, I can't say avoid it entirely, but if you just got rid of the top anime pages and like at all, like, and but still let people individually rate stuff on their own Mal pages, and in their own lists, I think that would get rid of a lot of vote brigading because it would it would still be public on your own page, but it wouldn't be aggregated.
I guess, but isn't Mal an aggregation site? Isn't that their purpose?
It is. I mean, it is to its purpose as a top anime list. Like, when it has those top anime pages and top manga pages, yeah, in that sense, it's definitely an aggregator. But I see Mal first and foremost as a database.
I guess so. I definitely appreciate the informational the information that you get from the top anime manga list, like knowing what the community is watching, knowing what they like, allegedly. I mean, more or less. I mean, take it with a grain of salt, but like you get a general gist of things. Yeah. And I guess it does add a sense of community in some ways. It'd be just so lonely if you didn't have, you know, an aggregation system to like.
I guess you could argue that if it didn't have the aggregation system, that it might not foster quite a sense of community. But you can also argue that that's what the forums do for each show or each anime or each manga. Because they do have individual forum threads for like every show and every episode that comes out. And
I didn't know they had forums.
Yeah.
I'm joking. I know they have forums. I'm just like, I never use the forums because
well, a lot of people do.
Well, okay, Boomer. Do you think I am in the forum era? No.
But I definitely understand what you mean. Like, it does, in a way, foster a sense of community, but it also sometimes leads to way more strife than it needs to.
I think you just have tunnel vision for the bad parts. You don't appreciate the good parts. I personally value the top anime manga sections a lot. I mean, it's helped me decide what to watch next, or you know what I really hate about Mal is their recommendation section. That is completely unhelpful.
I love the fact that up until recently, because we've been doing the Attack on Titan reviews, and you guys have dragged me into doing that. I had originally dropped season 1 of Attack on Titan, yet its recommendation system, if you want to call it that, constantly recommended me Attack on Titan season 2.
And you're like,
I had dropped
no,
the first season.
I hated Attack on Titan.
So great A+ job right there, Mal.
Yeah. Like, instead of relying on like whatever their recommendation system, well, I know how the recommendation system works. It's like fan fueled. It's like a fan will decide that if you like this, you like this, and then they aggregate all of those fan opinions, and then they give the recommendation. Instead of relying on...
I think it also has to do a little bit with popularity as well. I mean, you look at something like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, which has been at the top of the top anime series list for a long time now, and it's got 1.5 million people that have said that they've completed it, and it has a score currently it's sitting at a score of 9.23. I mean, I would assume that the recommendation algorithm, whether you like shonen or not, would still recommend that to you. It's like, hey, this is popular, you might like this.
Well, what I'm specifically talking about is when you go on a particular show, and then you be like, oh, you like this show? Oh, then you should watch this. And then you can click on why should I watch this or whatever, and it'll literally tell you because these amount of users said you would. So in that particular function of the website, it has nothing to do with popularity. It's just about how many users voted that you would like it. But I think that like there's like at the home page or something, there's a recommendation thing. I never go to the home page, honey. I don't have a homepage. So you can deal with that. I don't know how that works, how their homepage recommendations work.
I mean, on the homepage, it's got anime that are currently airing. It's got links to its manga store. It's got the latest updated episodes. And then it's after that, it's toward like the middle, I would say, of the homepage is where it's got anime suggestions.
Honey, you have
which I'd like to say,
time.
I'm currently logged into my own account right now, and I'm looking at this, like right this second, knowing that I have since given Attack on Titan Season 1 such a low score and have not seen Attack on Titan Season 2, it is currently recommending I watch Attack on Titan Season 3.
I don't think they even consider your score when they're deciding your recommendation. They're like, oh, you watched this. Oh, you added this to your list? I know what you like.
That may be true, but they should.
Okay, I don't know. Okay, when I click on myanimelist.net, I just go to my last list updates, and there's nothing else for me. I don't know. I think this is a you personal problem that you have this homepage.
Maybe.
I'm joking. It's probably something that I don't know how to work the internet because I'm a boomer.
Yes.
Oh my god.
But all this kind of brings up another question, like, who is Mal actually responsible for satisfying?
Mal has a responsibility to the truth with a capital T, and they will tell their truth whether you like it or not. No, I'm joking. So
I was about to say, you sound like you're describing some mainstream news outlet that hasn't told the truth in 30 years.
We're not going into that. So Mal is a fan-made website, first and foremost. So they should...
Run by volunteers.
Yes. So they should be responsible to, the fans of anime and manga. So really, they should be focusing their functionality on providing features that fans want. And I don't know. I haven't done any polls. I have no idea what other people think. But I personally do like Mal's top anime manga function. So I, as a fan, am happy that it is there. I realize very obviously that it has a lot of flaws and is not perfect, but it is better than nothing. So I'm glad it's there. I'm also perfectly willing for Mal to upgrade it and somehow improve it, which, I mean, I guess I wouldn't really call this current issue an improvement. It's more like preventing it from further decaying into madness, not so much improving it.
It's a response to an outside stimulus that has actually affected them for a little while now.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't think Mal has a responsibility to anything else, like the industry. I don't really think they have a responsibility until they sell out.
Yeah. I mean, I did say earlier that Mal is run by volunteers. I most of the people that work on stuff for Mal are volunteers. I don't necessarily think that everyone who works on Mal, like behind the scenes, is actually a volunteer. I think some of them are paid because the service itself is owned by a company called Media Do, or Doe. I don't know how you're supposed to say it, but so I do think there are some people who work on the site who are actually paid for the work, but a vast majority of the people who do what they do for Mal are volunteers. I just wanted to kind of set that straight. I do think you're right that first and foremost, I think Mal is responsible to just put the information, like actual data about anime out there, and let their users do the rest. Let their users, post in forums about their opinions on stuff. Let their users rate stuff how they want to. Not try and steer users into voting anime a certain way or manga a certain way. I think the only people they really have a responsibility to please are the users that use their service in how their service is utilized, like their user interface and like primarily their user interface, which hasn't been updated in fucking years. It looks like a site from the mid 2000s.
It is quite a relic.
So it'll be interesting because I know that Mal was recently acquired by Media Do, so I don't know how much that'll change anything going forward. But yeah, I think, as you say, it's not a perfect service, but it is probably the best resource currently out there for just finding out information about anime and about manga.
It definitely clearly puts more developmental and manpower work into their factual informational functions of their website rather than their aggregation of scores function.
Yeah, I mean, you can say that something like Wikipedia probably has more information about this stuff, but it's certainly not organized in a way that's easily accessible as it is on Mal, and certainly not itemized like it is on Mal.
I think Wikipedia has more in-depth information on certain or like popular anime and manga, but like Mal has like information on not so popular stuff as well. So
yeah, I mean, and it's also worth mentioning that Mal's anime database, I mean, you can debate whether this is actually anime or not, but Mal's database goes all the way back to 1917. There is no other service on the web that goes back that far. Again, you can debate whether that's really anime or not, but still, the fact is that someone at Mal has taken the time to go find information about these really obscure things from very far back in the past and do it for really no great profit.
Mal is truly a hero of the people.
That being said, I think there's some things that you and I might suggest that Mal do to improve its service over the long term. First and foremost is something I'd like to see. I mean, besides, I think the top anime thing should just be gotten rid of. But I mean, I'd like to see a better looking UI, like a UI that looks like it belongs in 2020, not in 2005. And something else I'd like to see is a new policy. I've said this for years, and it's a personal policy I believe you have as well, of not rating anime until they finish airing. I would like to see them implement a policy that does not allow you to give an anime series a rating until it is finished airing.
So see, that kind of policy would lean towards, um, like the aggregate site, aggregate function of the website rather than the like personal function, because you're like decreasing the functionality for the for each individual person to do on their own personal. Or maybe you would have like separate. I don't know how you would do that though, because it really is two things at once. Because it's both an aggregate of multiple of like the popular and the most rated, and at the same time, it's your own personal list. So if you take away that function, you're like, why can't I rate my own personal list how I want to rate it? But then if you rate it personally, why should it be like? And there's clearly a problem. Like there's clearly a conflict
that's a
there.
good question. Maybe they should have separate rating systems for episodes, and then an episode or a rating for like a full series.
Or maybe just like a private rating and a public rating.
That too.
And yes, I personally do not understand people who rate things that they didn't finish.
Yeah.
But it's definitely...
Like I said, 'cause that's something you and I have in common. We don't rate things until we finish watching them.
Yeah. But a lot of people I know rate stuff that they've dropped.
Yeah, and I don't rate anything that I've dropped. If I drop it, I leave the score blank, because to me, the drop itself is a score. It's equivalent to a score of 0. That's something else I'd like to see implemented, is if you drop an anime, it's given an aggregate score of 0.
Yeah, because like it's a double-edged sword. Because if you allow, actually, I completely lost my train of thought. Yeah.
Nice job. It's hell getting old, isn't it?
Oh, shut up.
I'm trying to think of something else that I'd like. Oh, I can also think of something else. For anime series, especially for anime series with multiple seasons, Gintama, I would like to see Mal implement some kind of a system where you can give like a overall franchise rating and an individual season rating, and then the franchise is what appears on the top anime list.
Yeah, that's definitely... Yeah, that would be a good
frustrating.
function.
Like,
yeah,
it's so frustrating because a lot of the things on the top anime list, at least currently, are anime that have 800,000, 900,000, a million people that have watched it. But then you have things like Gintama, which like 300,000 people have seen, and they all give it like an 8 or a 9.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's every single season of Gintama just appears in the top 10, and it's like, okay, is this the top anime or the top Gintama seasons?
Yeah.
And that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see
helpful.
for anime that have multiple seasons, I'd like for there to be like a franchise rating you can give it, and then an individual season rating. And the franchise rating is what appears on the top anime series.
That's a lot of ratings. So many numbers.
I don't know, it's frustrating. Not because I'm not really a huge fan of Gintama, because I'm not. I don't really have any animus towards people who like Gintama. I recognize a lot of people like it. I'm just saying that it's frustrating because you're not giving any kind of ability for other things to be seen on the top.
It just makes the top
page.
list boring, because I'm like, I see Gintama
It does.
10 times. It's
It
not very
does.
interesting to look at. Yeah, so I remember what I was going to say. Back to like dropping a show, whether that should be counted as part of the rating or not. I mean, like if you don't count people who dropped shows, then you're just gonna have a skewed rating towards everybody who's seen it, they're obviously gonna like it, and everybody who doesn't see it, they're gonna drop it. So it doesn't really reflect correctly what the community thinks of the show if you do it like that.
Yeah. And you could use something like that for very subtle vote brigading.
Oh, well, okay. I guess so.
I'm just saying, it's possible.
And even like your suggestion of like making a dropped vote count as 0. It's like not everything I drop I think is 0. I just...
Yeah. I mean, for me, typically it is, because the reason I drop it is because I thought it was unwatchable past a certain point. So
And, some people argue that, like, at the point that they drop it, they know that the show isn't going to get better and that what they're currently rating it isn't going to change even if they finish the show. Which, honestly, as hypocritical as it is, I can agree that, for the most part, that is true. But just from, like from a practical sense, I can agree that your vote won't change even if you finish it. But from a principle, I cannot agree. Because it just seems so stupid for someone to be able to rate something that they haven't seen. It just, just from principle, it seems stupid. My solution that
you wouldn't do that with a movie.
I know.
Like, you wouldn't go rate a movie you had never seen.
Exactly. It's so weird. It's only on anime. It's like...
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's only on anime. Some movies seem to get vote brigaded on things like, Rotten Tomatoes or whatever, but still.
Yeah, but they don't get... I don't know. Maybe. Anyways, my solution is that you discount all of the dropped ratings. And yes, you're going to have an inflated score, but you know how the score is like in bold, in large text, like right at the top of the page, maybe right next to that bold, large number, you can have the drop rate.
That would actually be very helpful.
Because then it's like two separate things, and you don't combine the things together. Just have them separately.
Yeah. So, one of the things it says underneath that score is like how many users have it on their list. Now, I don't know this for a fact, but I think that it means anyone who has it on any part of their list whatsoever, whether that's watching, completed, dropped, on hold, or plan to watch.
Yep.
So it'd be nice to see it when maybe if you scrolled your mouse over. I'm looking at Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood right now, where says it has a score of weighted score of 9.23, and underneath that it says it has 1,012,463 users. If you rolled your mouse over that, it'd be nice to where it came up and it showed you like how many people say that they're currently watching it, how many people say they completed it, how many people dropped it, how many people have it on hold.
I think you can see that, but it's not very like at the front.
Well, if you can, it's not made very obvious as to how you can.
Listen, Mal is only for the elitists that know how to operate it. It's not for the casual plebs like you, Alex.
That is a situation all in itself, and may actually be a video or an episode of the podcast all in itself. But other than that, I mean, we just kind of wanted to get on here and talk about our thoughts with the recent Mal drama and maybe suggest a couple of ways that it could improve. It'll be interesting to see how this new system of combating vote brigading works going forward, and if some innocuous or innocent users might get caught in the crossfire, whether accidentally or on purpose. Who knows? We'll have to see how it works out.
Well, I doubt I will, because I am the best, most pure, and good Samaritan anime fan, and I would never participate in toxicity and bad manners.
If anyone out there believes that, I have some oceanfront property in Arizona to sell you. And on that note, thank you all out there for dropping in to listen to us. We hope you enjoyed it, because we always enjoy bringing this stuff to you. If you want to check out other episodes of the podcast, you can find us on Apple Podcast, YouTube, BitChute, SoundCloud, and Spotify. Thank you to the person who pointed out to me that podcasts don't really appear on iTunes anymore. If you want to keep up with what we're doing, you can join us on Discord, Facebook, Twitter, and our website. Shoot us an email if you have any questions, or if you have ideas for topics you'd like for us to talk about in the future. Links to all these things will be down below in the description. As always, I have been your host, Alex, and I will see you next time. Second Night Show.
Make sure to rate Boku no Pico a 10.
It's always a 10 out of 10, and it's always the first thing you suggest to someone whenever they say, I want to get into anime. Got any recommendations?
Exactly.
I got your back.
In more than one way. Come on!